The clock is almost out, not metaphorically, not philosophically, but literally. 2025 is breathing its last few moments, and most people do not even feel it happening. The world looks the same, the rooms look the same, the mirrors still reflect the same tired face, yet something invisible is closing forever, because time does not end with noise, it ends with silence, and right now you are standing inside that silence, at the edge between what you failed to become and what you still might, if you understand one brutal truth. 2026 is not another year, it is not a reset, it is not a motivational calendar flip, it is a final window, a narrowing corridor where hesitation becomes permanent, because every year after this one will not ask who you wanted to be, it will only measure what you actually did. Look back at 2025, not with excuses, not with self-hatred, but with surgical honesty. You promised yourself change, you imagined discipline, growth, money, confidence, control, and then days slipped, weeks dissolved, months vanished, and comfort quietly won. That is why this image matters. A man leaving his old self behind while another version walks forward carrying wealth, not money alone, but value, identity, consequence. This is not fantasy, this is physics. Every decision creates momentum, and momentum creates identity. The version of you walking into 2026 is already forming. Whether you acknowledge it or not, the question is not will you change, the question is which direction you will lock in, because once the year turns, hesitation compounds faster than effort. Most people think failure comes from not trying hard enough, but that is a lie. Failure comes from delaying the moment of irreversible commitment. The quantum leap is not gradual, it is violent. It is the moment you kill the version of yourself that keeps waiting, waiting for motivation, waiting for confidence, waiting for the right time. There is no right time left. 2026 does not reward preparation, it rewards execution, and if you step into it carrying the same habits, the same fears, the same excuses, you will not feel pain immediately, you will feel comfort, and that comfort will quietly steal the next 5 years without resistance. This is why people wake up at 35, 40, 45, asking where life went. It went into moments like this, moments they treated like any other night, any other year, but this is not any other year, this is the threshold year, the year where your identity solidifies, where effort either becomes your default or avoidance becomes permanent. Right now you still have something priceless, awareness. You see the gap between who you are and who you could be. Most people never see that gap clearly, they numb it with noise, entertainment, comparison, distractions, but you are here, listening, which means something inside you already knows that if 2026 looks like 2025, then 2027 will look worse, and 2028 will feel impossible, and by the time regret becomes loud, opportunity will already be gone. This is the moment before the leap, when fear is loud, when doubt is logical, when comfort is seductive, and that is exactly why this moment matters more than any motivational speech you have ever heard, because motivation fades, but identity does not. And the identity you choose in the next few days will decide whether this image becomes your reality or your reminder of what you failed to do, because the most dangerous lie is believing you have more time. You do not, you have now, and now is almost over. Understand this clearly, the quantum leap is not about working harder than everyone else, it is about breaking alignment with your past self, because effort applied from the same identity produces the same results. That is why most people grind and still stay stuck. They never changed who they believe they are allowed to be. They never rewired their internal limits. They carry old self-images into New Year's and expect miracles, but the brain does not respond to hope, it responds to proof, and proof is created by action taken before confidence arrives. Look at the man in the image again. The golden figure is not chasing money, money is following him, because value always attracts resources, not the other way around. The dark version behind him is not weak, it is familiar. It knows your routines, your shortcuts, your comfort zones, and it will fight to survive, because habits do not die peacefully, they negotiate, they whisper tomorrow, next week, next month, and suddenly years are gone. 2026 is the year where negotiation ends, because this is the last year where radical change still feels possible. After that, the mind hardens, identity calcifies, and risk feels heavier than regret. The reason you feel tension right now is because your current self and your future self are colliding. One wants safety, the other wants significance, and only one can win. People think success is about talent or Intelligence, but the truth is brutal. Success is about tolerance for discomfort in silence, doing the work when nobody is watching, when there is no feedback, no validation, no applause. 2026 will test that. It will test whether you can act without emotional rewards, because that is where real leverage is built. The first months will feel empty, lonely, slow, and pointless. And that is exactly why most people quit. But if you understand this phase, you will not panic, you will not look for motivation, you will simply execute, because execution is identity reinforcement. Every day you show up, you send your brain a message, this is who I am now, and slowly, quietly, the old self starts losing power, not through motivation, but through irrelevance. This is why the leap must happen now, not gradually, not softly, but decisively. You do not negotiate with gravity, you jump where you fall. 2026 will magnify whatever you feed it, discipline will compound faster, but so will avoidance. Clarity will grow sharper, but so will confusion. There is no neutral path left. That is the uncomfortable truth nobody tells you. Staying the same is no longer stable, it is decline disguised as comfort. The world is accelerating, competition is ruthless, attention is fragmented, and average is disappearing. Either you upgrade your identity or the environment will downgrade your options. This is not pressure. This is reality, and reality does not care about intentions, only actions. If you step into 2026 without a clear personal standard, the year will assign one to you, based on your lowest effort, not your highest potential. That is why this moment is sacred, because awareness before commitment is rare. Most people realize this when it is too late, when responsibilities stack, when energy drops, when risk feels irresponsible. You are not there yet, but you are close enough to feel the warning. Listen to it, because it is not fear, it is clarity arriving before pain. Here is the truth that changes everything. You do not need a perfect plan for 2026, you need a non-negotiable identity. Plans fail, systems break, motivation disappears, but identity persists. Decide who you are willing to become, not what you want to achieve. Achievements are fragile, identities are durable. Say it internally, not out loud. I am the person who does not miss commitments to myself. I am the person who acts before feeling ready. I am the person who builds value before chasing rewards. Once this identity is chosen, behavior follows naturally. The mistake most people make is trying to force discipline without changing self-perception. That is like trying to run with a broken leg, painful and unsustainable. Instead, change the story you tell yourself about who you are allowed to be, because your brain will always protect identity over comfort. If you identify as disciplined, skipping work creates internal conflict. If you identify as inconsistent, effort feels unnatural. 2026 is the last year where identity rewiring still feels achievable without trauma. Later years often require pain to force change, loss, failure, humiliation, exhaustion. You still have the luxury of voluntary discomfort. Use it, because voluntary discomfort now prevents involuntary suffering later. The quantum leap is not dramatic on the outside. No one will clap when you wake up early, no one will care when you stay consistent, no one will notice when you say no to distractions. But inside, something irreversible will shift. Confidence will stop being something you chase and start being something you radiate, because confidence is evidence-based. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, again and again. This is how the golden version in the image is created, not by luck, not by manifestation, but by accumulated self-respect. Money, success, influence, they are symptoms, not causes. The cause is identity alignment, and alignment requires sacrifice. You will sacrifice comfort, social approval, instant pleasure, and that sacrifice will feel unfair at first. You will look around and see others relaxing, scrolling, enjoying, and you will question yourself. But remember this, most people optimize for tonight, not for the next 5 years. You are not trying to win a day, you are trying to rewrite a trajectory. 2026 is not about intensity. It is about consistency under boredom, the ability to show up when progress is invisible, because invisibility is the incubation stage of every breakthrough. Seeds grow in darkness, not in applause. If you can accept that, if you can stay patient when results lag, you will outlast 90% of people without competing with them directly. Time will become your advantage, not your enemy, but only if you start now. Not January motivation now, not someday now, but decision now. The decision that this is the year you stop negotiating with yourself, because once you cross that line, something strange happens. Resistance weakens, clarity sharpens, and momentum begins to pull you forward, not push you. That is the real quantum leap, when effort starts feeling inevitable instead of forced. As the final moments of 2025 fade, understand this: there will be no dramatic sign, no voice from the sky, no sudden certainty. The transition into 2026 will feel quiet, ordinary, almost disappointing. And that is the trap, because ordinary moments are where destiny hides. This is where futures are locked in, not through excitement, but through decisions made without witnesses. 1 year from now, you will either watch this moment with pride or with a familiar hollow feeling, telling yourself you will do it next year, but next year will not feel as forgiving. Energy changes, priorities shift, excuses harden. This is why this video exists, not to motivate you, but to confront you, because comfort has already had enough chances. 2026 is not asking for perfection, it is asking for commitment, not intensity. Not obsession, but loyalty to a standard you refuse to break. Imagine the version of yourself at the end of 2026, not flashy, not famous, but grounded, capable, respected by your own reflection. Imagine knowing you did not quit when it was boring, you did not stop when it was slow, you did not run when it was uncomfortable. That version of you is real, but it is conditional. It only exists if you choose differently now, if you step forward while the old self dissolves behind you, if you accept that growth feels like loss before it feels like gain. The image you saw at the beginning is not symbolic, it is predictive. One version of you is already fading, the only question is whether you will let it pull you back or finally walk forward without looking over your shoulder. The quantum leap does not happen in a year, it happens in a decision that makes the year inevitable. Make that decision now, quietly, firmly, without drama, because the most powerful changes are the ones nobody sees coming, including the old version of you. And when 2026 ends, you will not need motivation anymore, you will have momentum, and momentum changes everything. Now the pressure deepens, because once awareness turns into intention, the mind looks for escape routes, it tries to soften the truth, it whispers that you still have time, that others are worse off, that conditions are not perfect yet, but this is the final illusion you must break, because conditions never become perfect, they become irrelevant once commitment is real. Understand this carefully. The reason most people never make a true quantum leap is not because they lack discipline, it is because they secretly want guarantees. They want proof before risk, certainty before sacrifice, results before effort. But reality works in the opposite direction. Proof comes after risk, confidence comes after action, and results come after consistency, not before. 2026 will not hand you reassurance, it will test whether you can move forward without it. This is where most people stall. They confuse preparation with progress, planning with protection, learning with delaying. They consume endless content, watch endless videos, listen to endless advice, yet never cross the line where identity actually changes, because crossing that line feels like death, the death of excuses, the death of comfort, the death of the version of you that always had a reason. And the mind resists death fiercely, even symbolic death. But make no mistake, one version of you will die regardless, either the future version you never become, or the current version that keeps you small. There is no third option, and 2026 is the year where this trade becomes unavoidable. The world will not slow down for you, competition will not wait for you, opportunities will not feel sorry for you, they will simply pass to those who are ready to act, even imperfectly, even clumsily, even afraid, because fear is not a sign to stop, it is a signal that you are approaching the boundary of your old identity. And boundaries are meant to be crossed, not admired. If you want to understand how transformation really happens, look closely. It is not dramatic, it is repetitive, boring actions done with unreasonable consistency, waking up when you do not want to, working when no one is watching, learning when results are invisible, saying no when distraction is easy. This is not glamorous, but it is lethal to mediocrity. 2026 will not reward those who feel inspired. It will reward those who feel tired and still show up, because fatigue filters out the unserious. This is where the separation happens, quietly, invisibly. While the world looks the same on the surface, most people will drift into the new year unchanged, carrying the same habits under a new calendar. But a small percentage will decide that comfort is no longer an option, and that decision alone will start bending probability in their favor, not because the universe cares, but because behavior compounds, effort stacks, skill builds, and identity solidifies. Over time, what felt impossible becomes normal, what felt uncomfortable becomes routine, and what felt distant becomes inevitable, but only if you survive the early phase, the phase where nothing seems to be happening, the phase where doubt is louder than results. This is the graveyard where most dreams die, not because they were unrealistic, but because they were abandoned too early. If you can stay when others leave, if you can continue when excitement fades, you will cross a threshold that cannot be uncrossed, a point where quitting feels more painful than continuing. And that is when momentum truly locks in. This is why the fifth part of the journey is the most dangerous, not because it is hard, but because it is quiet. There are no external rewards yet, no visible validation, no dramatic feedback, just you, your standards, and your discipline, and that is exactly why it works, because growth that happens without applause builds unshakable confidence, confidence rooted in self-trust, not external approval, and once you trust yourself, the world responds differently. Opportunities align not by magic, but by preparedness, by competence, by consistency. The golden version in the image did not wake up rich, powerful, or successful. He became unavoidable, because value cannot be ignored forever. 2026 is the year you decide whether you will become unavoidable or remain optional, whether your presence will command respect or be overlooked, whether your life will be directed or drift, and the choice will not feel dramatic, it will feel subtle, like a series of small decisions made correctly when no one is forcing you to. Those decisions will either accumulate into freedom or into regret, and regret is the most expensive currency you will ever pay. This is where the story ends, not with a promise, not with motivation, but with responsibility, because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand how identity, effort, and time interact, excuses lose their power. The final truth is simple and brutal: 2026 will pass whether you change or not. It will consume days, weeks, months, just like every year before it. The only difference is what it leaves behind. At the end of that year, you will either have evidence of growth or a refined list of excuses, and both will feel convincing in the moment, but only one will protect you from regret later. Imagine standing at the end of 2026, looking back, not emotionally, but objectively, asking yourself one question: did I become harder to replace, more skilled, more disciplined, more reliable than I was before? If the answer is yes, your future opens, options expand, leverage increases. But if the answer is no, life narrows, choices shrink, pressure rises, and freedom becomes a memory instead of a possibility. This is not fear-based thinking, it is cause and effect. The world rewards those who reduce uncertainty for others, those who show up consistently, those who deliver value predictably, and punishes those who remain unstable, inconsistent, and reactive. Whether they are good people or not, morality does not override mechanics. Effort aligned with direction produces outcomes, effort without direction produces exhaustion, and direction without effort produces illusion. The quantum leap happens when direction and effort align under a non-negotiable identity. That identity does not announce itself, it proves itself quietly over time. This is why you do not need to tell anyone what you are about to do in 2026, you do not need validation, support, or permission. You need execution, because results speak louder than intention ever will. Let others underestimate you, let others doubt you, let others relax while you build. Silence is a powerful advantage when used correctly. The old version of you will try one last time to hold on. It will remind you of comfort, of past failures, of reasons to delay. But understand this: the past has no authority over the future unless you give it permission, and permission is given through repetition, not thought. Every day you act differently, you weaken the past. Every day you revert, you reinforce it. That is why the beginning of 2026 matters more than the middle or the end. Early habits set the tone, early discipline creates momentum. Early wins build belief, not massive wins, but private wins: waking up when you said you would, finishing what you started, showing up when it would be easy not to. These are the bricks that build an unbreakable identity. By the time others start thinking about change, you will already be deep into execution. By the time they feel urgency, you will feel control, and by the time they feel regret, you will feel options. This is not superiority, this is sequencing, doing the hard things early so life becomes easier later, instead of doing easy things early and paying for it with stress later. As this script ends, understand that nothing magical will happen after you finish listening. The room will look the same, your phone will still be there, distractions will still exist, And that is the test. Transformation does not announce itself with fireworks, it begins with discipline in ordinary moments. The quantum leap is not a single jump, it is a decision that makes future jumps inevitable, and that decision is available to you right now, quietly, without witnesses, without guarantees. If you take it, you will not feel powerful immediately. You will feel exposed, uncertain, and alone, but if you stay, if you persist, if you execute when it is boring, when it is slow, when it is uncomfortable, one day you will look back and realize the old version of you could never have survived the life you are now capable of handling, and that is when you will understand, the leap was real, not because the world changed, but because you did.